Since Apple really popularised the classy slim form factor of their high-end laptops, it's only really been a matter of time until Huawei and other brands follow suit. In 2019, it's definitely the fashionable thing to have now, a sleek, thin design aesthetic laptop, while still squeezing as much power and performance out as possible. Hello and welcome back to Triple Tech, and welcome to my review of Huawei's Matebook X Pro. Now, the keen-eyed among you will realise that this is actually the 2018 version of the laptop, and not the new and improved 2019 version of the laptop. Later on in this video, I'm going to discuss why I have opted to go for this 2018 version instead of waiting for the new and improved 2019 version. Now, first things first, we've got to get the gorgeous looks out the way of this laptop. Yes, everyone says that this looks exactly like a Apple MacBook Pro, but is that really a bad thing? They are such a good design, and really, they are just one of the most beautiful laptops you can buy. Although not an Apple user myself, you have to admit that their designs are just top of the range and very, very sleek. That's something that all PC users just have to admit, I'm afraid. And the PC manufacturers must have listened as well, because now they are introducing the same design aesthetics into their laptops. Now, as we're talking about the body of this thing, that moves us nicely onto the screen itself. The screen boasts a whopping 91% screen-to-body ratio with those extremely thin bezels, a 3:1 aspect ratio of 3000 by 2000 pixels, that is a 3K screen, 100% sRGB colour gamut coverage. The screen's also a touchscreen. It says it's fingerprint resistant, but honestly, that's not true. It has all the fingerprints in the world. And 450 nits is a pretty bright screen, but however it's still not particularly usable in full bright sunlight. Now, moving down from that, we have the keyboard, and I think the keyboard, in comparison to Apple's MacBook Pros, I think it's slightly better. There's definitely a bit more travel to these keys than the MacBooks. There are a couple of bad notes about this keyboard though, one of which is all software related. The main problem is that the backlight on the keyboard cannot be set to be constantly on. Of course, this is to save battery life, but it does mean that when you're working at night and you're not pressing the keyboard for about sort of 10 seconds or so, those lights will turn off and you've got to hit a button somewhere to turn them back on again. And that can cause problems if you're working in software that if you hit the wrong button, it could cause problems. So as I said, this is fixable in software by just having the ability to set a checkbox as to always on. Always have the backlight of the keyboard on if you want. And the other note is the arrow keys on the keyboard. Personally, I can't get used to arrow keys which are in one straight line and not the up arrow above the others. I just can't get it. I keep hitting the wrong button all the time. And the final part about the keyboard is that pop-up camera, which is hidden away inside the keyboard. Now, this is great for privacy and all that in an age where privacy is a big deal, especially for Huawei. It's always a topic when it comes to Huawei. The camera is only 1 megapixel, and there's a whole load of talk about it being a bad camera angle. But to me, I don't really mind because I really don't use video calls very often. So it's nice not really to have a camera in your face all the time when you're not using it. So it's a big thumbs up from me. To the top right of the keyboard, we have the power button, which doubles as a fingerprint reader. So when you're just hitting the button to turn the computer on, it's also reading your fingerprint and will sign you in as soon as the computer boots up, which only takes about 10 seconds, really, maximum. And then at the bottom of the keyboard, we have the trackpad, and the trackpad has definitely had some inspiration from Apple. It is very large, it's very nice, and it has all the Windows gestures features, which I've grown to love. There is one point about this trackpad though which I'm not particularly fond of, and that is the ability to click near the top ends of the trackpad. It's very easy to click at the bottom ends, but at the top ends, you have to put a lot of pressure in, and it's not as nice to click up there at all. But staying down at the bottom end, absolutely fine and very easy to use. Okay, so now we're done with that top end of the keyboard, we're now going to look onto the sides of the device. This is of course a very slim laptop, so therefore there aren't that many ports available to us. However, there are some very useful ports. On the left side we have a USB-C port which can be used for data transfer and for charging the device. Next to that we have another USB Type-C port, however this one is Thunderbolt 3 compatible, so all those Thunderbolt accessories that you might have, they're going to work with this, and it's very fast and very, very useful. And then to the left of those ports you have your headphone jack, which is of course very much appreciated in these days in which headphone ports are just disappearing. Then when we swap over to the other side of the device, we see something that you don't see very often in a device of this form factor, and that is a full-size USB 3 port. It would have been nice to have USB 3.1 speeds, especially on the new 2019 model, but we're not going to get that unfortunately. But I do love the ability to still have that USB-A port. It's incredibly useful because I have a lot of USB-A products and accessories, so that's very much appreciated. Okay, now we're done with the outside, let's dive into the internals. Powering the device is a 8th generation Intel Core i7 8550U processor, 16GB of DDR3 2133 MHz RAM, 512GB of NVMe PCIe high-speed storage, and its GPU is an NVIDIA GeForce MX 150 with 2GB of GDDR5 memory. The CPU also has inbuilt Intel graphics as well, so it can auto-switch whenever the demand for graphical workloads is high, and therefore saving battery life. On the topic of battery life, it's very good for the size of the laptop. If I'm using mainly office programs, I probably get to about 5, maybe 6 hours of screen on time. However, if I'm doing lots of heavy workloads, video editing, etc., I'd be lucky to get probably 2 to 3 hours maximum. Then you have the speakers in the grills of the left and right side of the keyboard. These are very good, not quite as good as the MacBook Pro audio, mainly due to the depth and bass in the audio, but they go just as loud and they're still incredibly good quality. You wouldn't think that such good quality speakers come out of a laptop this small, so I'm impressed. I have put this laptop through its paces. I've done a lot of video editing and photo editing on it, and I've used it a couple times to live stream on broadcast productions, and everything I've thrown at it, it just performs flawlessly. Except when it comes to gaming, of course, this is not a gaming laptop whatsoever. Pretty much all games, especially the high-end, definitely AAA games, you're not going to be able to play on this laptop whatsoever. But if you're going to be using it for video editing, the integrated graphics and the dedicated GPU are going to be a world of a difference, and they're really going to help, and it's very, very flawless when it comes to video editing and stuff like that. Heat dissipation of this laptop, like the Apple laptops, is a bit iffy, and when you're in high workloads, when you're rendering out video and whatnot, and if you're gaming, you will see your CPU hovering at around 80 degrees, which is pretty hot, and if you put your hand on the bottom, or on the top in fact, at the top end of the keyboard, you're going to have, don't keep your fingers there for too long, it does get pretty hot. So I bought this laptop about a month or two ago, and with the 2019 model coming out soon, why did I go for this one? The 2019 model does have a few very nice upgrades, from better CPUs, a better GPU, and up to 1 TB of internal storage. It also has its cool features when it comes to transferring photos and videos from Huawei phones to the Huawei laptop. That's all very good. I don't have a Huawei phone, so that doesn't really affect me, but it's still a cool feature to have if I were to switch to a Huawei phone. These upgrades would be lovely to have, but they're not going to affect my workload very much and my work process. The laptop already runs flawlessly as it is, so why would I want to pay the extra money and wait the extra time for the 2019 model? It's still not out yet. I thought it was going to be out a couple months ago, but it still hasn't come out yet. Because of the anticipation for the new model, you can get very good deals for the 2018 model right now on eBay and various resale sites, or even new. So I would recommend probably looking at the 2018 model if the extra power isn't something that you necessarily need. Yeah. Over the last few weeks, there has been, of course, some worrying circumstances under Huawei, and whether they're actually going to continue working with Microsoft for their driver support for Windows and their software updates. It is looking to be better now, and I think there isn't much worry that we're going to lose support for Windows. That might be why the delay for the new laptop has taken so long, but I think we're good now. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for a Huawei laptop. Hopefully, but maybe there might be something that goes on. We'll see. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I do recommend this laptop if you can look past some of the Huawei stuff that's been going on recently. Yeah, it's a wonderful laptop. I do recommend it. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say, really. If you have any questions, do ask them in the comment section below, and slap that like button, always helps. And subscribe if you want to see more like this. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.